All right, it's the Buckeye Blitz. I'm Tito, Jeff Thitoff. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Got a lot to talk about. You can download the Fantasy Sports app for free. That is for Apple and Android both. Go check that out. You can follow me on the X at It Happens, where you can find me there as well. Also, fantasysports.com, and we have a Facebook page for fans of Fantasy Sports powered by DSP Media. Go check it out. We have so many different shows that are coming out all the time. Great new content. So please go check that out. We will talk a lot about the Ohio State men's basketball game from Sunday against Purdue. First, so we'll backtrack a little bit to what happened last week as it pertained to Chris Holtmann. Chris Holtmann was fired as head coach of Ohio State after their loss to Wisconsin. They got beat 62-54 in that game last week. The Buckeyes at the time fell to 14-11, 4-10 in the Big Ten over the last season and change now, I guess, almost 2 full seasons. Ohio State just 30-30 overall, 9-25 in the Big Ten. The team didn't look like they went through the motions a lot this season. Didn't see a lot of creativity there with the offense. It seemed like down the stretch, Ohio State was getting out-coached, out-executed. And as much as I like Chris Holtmann, look, I'm telling you, Chris Holtmann is a fine individual, and I've spoken to him a couple of times, and I do think he's a great basketball coach. He just didn't get it done here at Ohio State. Gene Smith, the Ohio State athletic director, he looked pained when he had to discuss this. He didn't want to let go of Chris Holtmann. He's very fond of Chris Holtmann, and plus, with this being Gene Smith's, his final few months here as the athletic director, he steps down July 1st, being replaced by Ross Bjork from Texas A&M. But Bjork, by the way, comes on board March 1st and will kind of shadow Gene, I guess, until July. But Gene Smith, the last major coaching decision he's probably going to make at Ohio State ends up being firing somebody who he just gave an extension to a couple years ago. And Gene Smith's press conference about Holtmann had a lot of nice things to say about him, but also did not hold back when he said that expectations were not met. Gene Smith was asked directly, do you regret giving Chris Holtmann the extension you gave him just a couple of years ago that resulted in this being a situation where now Ohio State owes Holtmann $14 million? And Gene Smith said, yeah, I do regret that. And I wish I could, all my regrets in my life, I wish I could have do-overs. I'm paraphrasing there, but he did admit that he regretted it, which I was surprised to hear that. And then, if you remember just recently when incoming President Ted Carter and Ross Bjork had their press conference, Gene Smith, a big part of that as well, their introductory press conferences. And President Carter was asked specifically, once Ross gets here March 1st and he's with Gene until July 1st, who's going to make the decisions, the big decisions? And President Carter said it's Gene's job until Gene's not here. Gene's going to make the decisions. So leads you to believe it was Gene's decision to let go of Holtmann when he did. But also, it sounds like, but then Gene was asked, though, does he have a list at this press conference just last week? Does he have a list of coaches he wants to talk to? And he said, that's a good question to ask Ross Bjork. And so Ross certainly will play a major role in hiring the next basketball coach, but Gene was kind of deflecting that, and that was surprising me. I thought Gene would play a big role in that. I know that Ross has to also be, you want Ross Bjork to also be on board with whoever you hire, but it seemed like Gene kind of took a step back on that one. And he said the process now belongs to Ross Bjork. And so we'll see where Ohio State goes from here. In the meantime, they hired promoted Jake Diebler from the staff to be the head coach for the rest of the season. And Ohio State promptly went out on Sunday and defeated number 2 Purdue in Columbus, 73-69, a huge upset. Purdue entered as like an 8.5-point favorite, but I think most people were jumping on that, thinking Purdue would blow Ohio State out. I, for one, did not think Ohio State would be able to compete with Zach Edey. Ohio State's tallest player is 6'9". Edey is a giant. Edey did have a decent game still, 22 points, 13 rebounds, but he had 6 turnovers. Ohio State, the Zed Key and company did a great job of defending Zach Edey throughout the game. And I think 5 steals is what Zed Key ended up with. He ended up with 9 points, only 1 rebound. They had 1 assist, 5 steals. Ohio State was out-rebounded 36-23. I thought they would get out-rebounded. They did have 9 steals, though. Interestingly, the teams combined to go 30 for 31 from the free throw line in this game. So a big win for Ohio State, 22 points for Bruce Thornton, 19 for Jamison Battle. None in the first half. All 19 points for Battle came in the second half, made a couple of really big-time threes down the stretch. Ohio State had the lead, looked like they were going to blow. Purdue came back and tied up. It was like, oh, it's the same old thing here with Ohio State. But no, that's not what happened at all. The Buckeyes hold on for the win again, 73-69. Big win for the Ohio State men's team. They're now in action again on Thursday at Minnesota. They've got a few games left, and I know they're 15-11 now. It's a huge long shot for them to get to the NCAA tournament. But I do believe, though, that Jake Diebler has an opportunity here. He's essentially coaching for the job. I don't expect he'll get it. No head coaching experience whatsoever. But if they can go on a run, if they can win out, and the schedule's not that daunting. The toughest game's going to be at Michigan State. But it's not impossible. With the way they looked against Purdue, if they can maintain that intensity, they could win out. Now, if they win out, that gets them to 20-11, and then you've still got the Big Ten tournament where if they could win a couple games there, who knows what would happen. But so I don't expect it to happen. So I'm not saying that. I'm not sitting here telling you that it's going to be a Steve Fisher type run with Michigan back in '89, I think it was, when they made him the head coach right before the tournament started because Bo Schembechler fired Bill Frieder. Or Bill Frieder took a job at Arizona, was going to take it the next season, leads Michigan to the tournament. Schembechler says, no, I want Michigan man coaching Michigan. Fisher goes on, wins all 6 games in the NCAA tournament, and Michigan claims the title, and Fisher kicks off a long coaching career. I don't expect that to happen. But Diebler is coaching for his job, for this head coaching job. If they have a very strong finish, if they have a run in the Big Ten tournament, if they happen to make the NCAA tournament, I don't know how you could not give Diebler serious consideration for this job long term. Ohio State women, switch over them. They are number 2 in the country. They played on Wednesday, February 14th. They're not playing again until Thursday, February 22nd, when they traveled to Penn State. Penn State took them to overtime. The first time they played at the Schottenstein Center early this year was 94-84. Kevin McGuff's team, though, on top in the Big Ten, controlled their own destiny as far as the Big Ten number 1 overall seed goes. The 22nd is a big night because you've got Ohio State with 1 loss, you got Indiana with a loss, and Iowa with 2 losses. And Indiana and Iowa play. Each had 2 losses, I take it back. And Indiana and Iowa play each other on the 22nd. Ohio State, closes out their season at Iowa on March 4th. So, but Thursday night's a big night for Ohio State women's basketball. And I looked up a stat, and I think it's the last 8 games, or maybe it's the last 7 games. But Ohio State's outscored their opponents by 89 points in the third quarter, which is an incredible run for Ohio State women's basketball. I talked to Kevin McGuff yesterday. Typical Kevin McGuff, he deflected most of that. So it's the players, which is great. I'm glad he does that. But nonetheless, Ohio State seems to be making these fantastic coaching adjustments at halftime and then blowing teams out in the third quarter as a whole. All right, let's switch over now to football because there's a lot of good football stuff to talk about. The Ohio State the Ohio State football team has hired James Laurinaitis, hired full-time as a linebackers coach. And now what that does is that gives him the opportunity to go on the road and recruit, which is good. So Laurinaitis now joins the staff. Now the staff is now finalized as far as they get some contact extensions out. Laurinaitis, full-time linebackers coach. We also got on the offensive side, you got Chip Kelly, offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, Brian Hartline, co-offensive coordinator, wide receivers coach, Justin Fry, the offensive line coach. Much embattled the last couple of years. Looks like he'll be staying on board, though, now for the foreseeable future because Chip Kelly had Justin Fry, has an offensive coordinator at UCLA when he was there for a while. Tony Alford, the running back coach, and Keenan Bailey, the tight ends coach. But we're getting closer and closer to this. Ohio State's going to start practicing here, and we'll get the spring game coming up in April. So we'll keep an eye on that. And a lot of interesting position battles, specifically the quarterback position coming up this year. We're watching that quite a bit. But Ohio State kicks off their season August 31st against Akron, then follow up Western Michigan and Marshall. The big games on the schedule, October 12th, when they travel to Eugene to take on Oregon, and which should be a top 3 matchup for both. Both teams should be the top 3 when that game occurs. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. Again, thank you so much for tuning into the Buckeye Blitz. I'm Tito, Jeff Thitoff, and follow me on the X at It Happens, and also download the Fanstream Sports app. It's for free, Apple and Android users. Check that out. But it's you can go to fanstreamsports.com, do all of that. Thanks so much for tuning into the Buckeye Blitz on fanstreamsports.com, powered by DSP Media.